Welcome back. This is the last topic in our course. The name of the topic is platform economics. And I have taken material from lot of places, from internet, from other slide, but most material, at least for next video, is coming from a book that has a title Economics of Platforms. The book is by Belleflamme and Peitz. This chapter is in a way an experimental chapter because this has not yet become part of our textbook, but I believe that our world of business has changed. Earlier we had traditional economies which worked really well using economy of scale that we had discussed earlier, but now network effect is playing way more important role than economy of scale. And so in this chapter we will talk about platform to some extent, but our focus is going to talk about network effect because network effect gives the foundation for platform economics. So I hope you will enjoy these two videos on platform economics. Let us get into the network effect. Let us understand network effect. We have been calling it network externality also. So a common theme, a similar theme that you find on production side, and we called it increasing return to scale. Just to remind you, what is increasing return to scale? Let us say you have two factors of production. Amount of first factor is x1 and amount of second factor is x2, and if you increase both factors by a factor of t, a scale of t, what you get is more than t factor of increase in output. This is what your increasing return to scale is. So what is the result? That as your output is increasing, your cost to produce or average cost to produce is falling. So in other words, what you get here is that, let us say here is the total cost and here is quantity, it's going to be like this. In other words, your average cost is going to be falling like this. So what is happening? Let us say if you want to produce, let us say here is 10 and here is 20. This slope is giving you average cost and it is falling. So in what does it mean? What does it say in the real life? Let us take a very simple example that you are on an island and you have wick that you can use to make basket, and there are 100 people, and let us say basket making exhibits increasing return to scale. So should you have one factory employing 100 people, or you should have 100 factory, meaning each person should have his or her own factory? Which would be better? Okay, because remember that if you have 100 factories, so each will produce one unit. Let us say on average, if they are producing 100 units, each one will produce. So the average cost to at level of one, let us say, is going to be greater than average cost at level of 100. So your total cost of production would be higher when 100 people are producing on their own. So what is beneficial for the society? Remember, this we had called natural monopoly also. In this we get natural monopoly because it becomes cheaper to produce at larger scale. So what was it doing? It was reducing the cost, average cost of production. What is network effect is doing? Of course, network effect we are seeing on the consumption side. It is not changing the cost, but it is changing the consumer's benefit. As more and more people are joining, the utility of this person is increasing in N. So exactly same kind of impact you get. Okay, so network effect, if network effect is present, there will be a move towards monopoly, because one company can serve them better than having two companies, because everyone would like to be connected to the same network. But I will come back to that. You can say that in many network economies we do not find just one company participating, but many companies participating. Why does it happen? So we will get back to this question. So now let us look at why do we get network externality. So one is larger reach. So if you think of the telephony, let us say that in the beginning there are just two people connected. Now let us say third person also comes, and this person acts as the hub. So everyone is connected through exchange. Let us say this is the structure, and one more person joins in. How many more connections? Because one more person joining, how many more connections are possible? Earlier you had, let us say, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now one more person joining will lead to 4 more connection. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it is beneficial. Larger reach, you can connect to more people. Complementarities, because different people are able to do different things, so they can help each other in different ways, and that's how complementarity would work. Remember, we talked about substitutability and complementarities while talking about Eco 901. What was complementarities? That presence of X increases the utility from Y, and then X and Y would be complement. So similarly, different hub in a hub and spoke, different component would bring different things, and it would be beneficial for everyone. So complementarities improves in whenever you have a network effect. Informational, if more people are joining, so guess would be that of course that thing is better. Like you go to a place for food, let us say you go to food court and you see that there are different food vendors, but everyone is buying from a particular food vendor and no one else, let's say in the extreme case, no one else is going to the other food vendors. You would think that presence of these many people will give you some information that perhaps this vendor is better, and that's why it's informational. And also it can be fashion. Everyone is doing it, you should also do it. That's what the fashion and fad are. But it works in the different direction also. Some people derive utility by having contrarian approach. So if everyone is wearing jeans, so one would like to wear traditional Indian attire just to appear different. So there could be positive, if you are thinking of fashion, there could be a positive, but there could be contrarian and negative network externality also. Some of us would not like to do things that everyone else is doing. So this network effect can be positive and negative, and we will see on platform that these effects play very, very important role. So now let us learn how to derive market demand in case of network effect. We had learned earlier that by horizontally summing individual demand, we can get market demand. But here is one particular problem. When we are just simple summing, we are ignoring the network effect if it is present. So what we had learned earlier is not wrong. That works well when we do not have network effect. Now we are going to learn a technique which would tell us how to get market demand in case of the network effect is present. So let us say there is an individual whose demand depends on number of people. Let us say for this individual, demand looks like this when he is the only one in the society. The individual demand, because network effect is positive, if more people are present, then his demand is going to be higher. It would shift outside. So we will say, let us say 10,000 people are present. This is the way it would look like. Let us say 20,000 people are present. This is the way it would look like. And here on this axis, we have number of people. So we will say that, let us say, of course we have to give number, we say that let us say this is where 10,000 is and this is where 20,000 is. Now if we want to get the market demand, we cannot simply sum this curve. Let us say we are doing for 10,000 people, we cannot simply sum this curve in horizontal manner 10,000 times or 20,000 times. That would not work, because that horizontal summing is ignoring the network effect. So what we need to say, that first let me draw it and then I will explain. The market demand in this case is going to be like this. How did I get it? Because this is the curve, this is the curve when 10,000 people are present. So when really 10,000 people are present, at that time market demand should be overlapping this curve. When 20,000 people are present, market demand curve should be overlapping that curve. And if we do it for each label, by drawing it, we can get the market demand curve. What do we notice? That market demand curve is flatter than individual demand curve. In other words, the price responsiveness of market demand curve goes up. It becomes more elastic. That's one thing. The second thing that we realize, that market demand curve is starting here. So for the whole market, this is the reservation price. We also call it choke price. This is the choke price. So choke price is very, very low. Let us say the cost to come up with the first unit is this. Even though it's coming with higher quantity, it's coming down, this good will not be provided because choke price is really, really low. So what happens in this particular case? We get chicken and egg problem. If there are no people there consuming this good, I would not like to consume this good. And if there is no one consuming, producers have no incentive to serve this market. So this is chicken and egg problem, whether the consumer will come first or seller will come first. This is also called startup problem. And so we have seen that whenever there is increasing return to scale on the production side, we find we say that natural monopoly, because society can be served better by one firm. What will happen when network effect is present? Do we get monopoly or competition? Of course, the tendency would be, because on one network everyone like to be, so it's always good to have only one person providing, only one firm providing. As more and more people would join, everyone would be better off. But there is a pool from other side, because on the production side it may have decreasing return to scale. So of course there will be two effects. One, network effect, that would like everyone to be on the same network, but the other side is going to be decreasing return to scale or diseconomy. So that would pull on the other side, and that is the reason you see that there are many vendors even for the network good. So you can have monopoly, but diseconomies or decreasing return to scale would increase competition. Because of network effect, we also have lock-in issue. Let us say that what we have here is that two kind of technology, and with both have network effect. The first technology, let us say here is number and here is payout on person term. As more and more people are joining, the payout is increasing. Let us say these are the technologies. This is the technology number one, and here you have, let us say this is tech A, and here you have tech B. So after this particular number, let us say Q naught, technology B is better than technology A. But what is happening here? Because in the beginning technology A would be adopted, because when number is very low, technology A is doing better than technology B, and now everyone is on that network. It becomes very difficult for people to move from technology A to technology B, because when it is starting, it has no number, there is no one, so return is much lower. So even you keep on moving on this technology A, it remains here. If everyone moves to technology B, it would be better for everyone, but the thing is no one has individually incentive to move to technology B, so you can have lock-in issue in case of network effect. Now we are going to move to economics of platform, and the first topic that we are going to discuss, what is platform. Before we do, just a small tidbit. In 2014, Professor Jean Tirole won the Nobel Prize in economics, and he was given Nobel Prize for his contribution to industrial organization and also in part of his work on two-sided market, which we are going to learn is another name for platform. And he co-authored a first significant paper on economics of platform with Jean-Charles Rochet. But let us begin on a simple word. What is a platform? First of all, platform, what do we mean by platform? It can have two meanings. One can be a raised place, like when we go to catch a railway, we go via platform. Or it can also mean a meeting place. So we are going to use platform in the sense of meeting place. Of course, this meeting place can be actual, real, or virtual. So the simple definition, one can say that an intermediary in the middle of two different parties, that's what an intermediary is, that an intermediary that makes a market. What does it mean? That it brings together buyers and sellers. What could be the examples? We have Bombay Stock Exchange or National Stock Exchange, where public equities are traded. Of course, someone is selling, someone is buying, so there are two sides. We also see Flipkart or Amazon, that is e-commerce platform. You go to these website or app to purchase items ranging from books to toys to groceries. Similarly, you have Apple's App Store. Similarly, you have Google's Play Store. That's a meeting place for app developers and consumers. Consumers buy and developers supply. Similarly, when we use Google for search, most prominent search engine, although we don't encounter, but hidden behind those searches are the advertisers. Sometimes we get to see those advertisers. So we are searching and advertisers are providing search. And Google is conducting these auctions to sell different advertising keywords. But in fact, we can go beyond buyers and sellers. Why should we limit ourselves just to buyer and sellers? So we can say that a platform is an intermediary that brings together group of users to facilitate economic or social exchange. So this social exchange or economic exchange can be of various different format. Here we have already seen in terms of buyer and sellers. We can also have payment network. Examples could be Visa, MasterCard, PayPal. These are even, UPI these days universal payment IDs that we have. We can have social platform where people go and exchange news, that is Facebook, Twitter, it can be match.com, or it can be eharmony.com. Then there is media. Think of any newspaper. In New Delhi, I don't have the exact number, but on some of the days, Hindustan Times is more than 100 pages big. Do you think they charge 5 rupees, 4 rupees? Do you think that's enough to recover the cost of printing and cost of paper? It is not. So those newspapers are also bringing different people. I would in fact say it's not just two-sided, it's multi-sided in the sense that it is bringing advertisers, consumers, and content writer. So this is a platform which has multi-side. So we begin things with two-sided platform. These days we are talking about multi-sided platform. We will keep on, for simplicity, we will in mathematical formulation talk about two-sided platform, but in description we can even have multi-sided platform. Here are some of the example. This is old video cassette recorder or player. We can say this is a platform because the cassettes are coming. See, cassettes are coming from different movie houses and consumers are renting those, buying those cassettes and playing for their entertainment, and Philips is providing this platform. Here of course the take is many other platform could be there, also competing platforms. So we would see the examples when different platforms compete with one another. Like earlier when we had VCP, VCR, Philips was competing against Sony and there were several other players. Similarly, here you have a gaming console. It is a platform because the players who are using these gaming console to play the game doesn't only depend, let us say if we talk about Xbox as a gaming console, Microsoft is selling Xbox, but if I am using Xbox, let us say I am a user, I also depends on game developers. So this is a platform which is bringing game developers as well as users together. Here you have Facebook. Facebook can be example of a multi-sided platform that of course there are users, then there are business users, there are content provider, there are game provider, there are advertisers. So there are different sites. Now platform has to optimize. We will get into the pricing, competition in when we progress in this course. Here you have Visa and MasterCards. They were the earlier example. Now we have even RuPay. In this, India's homegrown RuPay is also an example of this. These are matching sellers and buyers. And similarly, you have many examples here. There are magazines. On magazines, you can take example that, magazines, they bring advertisers, content writers, as well as users together. Of course, users would like to have as less advertisement as possible, but perhaps that would increase the cost of magazine and then users would not like to buy that magazine. Okay, so it's a very precarious balance that a platform has to strike, and we are going to study all about these things in future. Before we proceed further, let us look at the different types of platform. Okay, it's not limited and it's not exhaustive, just to give you an idea that how wide these things are. So one is, let us say, software platforms. What do? They allow application developers and user to interact. We can say personal computer. And why personal computer? We can say that personal computers have operating OS, operating software. So when app developers are not writing, they are not using everything from scratch. So for app, let us say you are using, let us say Uber app on your Mac OS, which is
Apple's operating software or operating system. So Uber is not developing everything on its own. Uber, when you use Uber's app, it's calling Mac OS keyboard, Mac OS processors, and so many different things. And then there is user. Similarly, on tablets, you have apps, video game we just discussed. You think of Apple Music, it is basically a software-based platform where Apple, different music companies are giving their music. Apple Music is sitting in the middle, and then there are consumers who are listening to the music. Then you have transaction system. A method of payment works only if buyers and sellers are willing to use it. The example would be credit cards, UPIs, currency note. Currency note is also a platform because different governments are issuing. Of course, in India, you are supposed to use Indian currency note, but in many countries it is allowed. So currency notes are also, in a way, a platform. You have PayPal also. Ad-supported media. We just talked about ad-supported media. You can have newspapers, TV, Google. So now, if I am watching TV, I would like to have my content without ad-free. In fact, I would be willing to pay some money so that ad is not shown. So here is an example. Let us say I am willing to pay 500 rupees, let us say, for 5 hours, just for example, for 5 hours of ad-free content. If an advertising company is willing to pay me 600 rupees to watch those ads through the platform, I become better off because I am willing to pay 500 rupees and I am getting 600 rupees in return. The advertisement company is better off because they are able to push their advertisement, and the content, this platform is also better off because it is also getting some commission. So this is the way many content is supported by advertisement, and that's why there is a category called ad supported media. And then there are exchanges, help buyer and seller search for feasible contracts and for the best prices. It can be stock exchange like Bombay Stock Exchange, National Stock Exchange, or it can be dating services, it can be nightclub, and so on. So these are the different example of platform. The point I am trying to make, that platform in themselves are not that new. Platform have existed for very, very long time. So we will learn what is new about these new platforms in future classes. Today is only for introduction, and that's why I'm not getting into the detail. So let us look at that platform. The key idea in the economic analysis of platform is that they are characterized by network effect. So the primary thing, that's the reason we wanted to revise, we wanted to understand network effect. Network effect is the root cause for the success of platform. Of course, people have been building things on top of that, but that's innovation. But at foundation is network effect in each of these platforms. So developer want to create product for Windows, iPhone, Android because of customer base, and consumers are attracted in part to these platforms because there are developers willing to provide different kind of apps. Okay, think about your mobile phone. Your usefulness of mobile phone will come down considerably if it doesn't have any app. Why app developers are developing app for you? Because app developers think there are many customers like you are out there who would purchase or use their apps. So app developers are developing if they are assured of number. Consumers are using a particular kind of mobile, let us say Android based or Apple based, iOS based, if they are assured that there are enough app developers there. Similarly, for example, people want to have Visa card because they are widely accepted, and merchant want to accept them because most people have them. You know, the Visa card and MasterCard, they charge substantial commission, and still merchants or business folks are willing to carry their MasterCard terminal or Visa card terminal because many people are carrying that and they are interested in paying using these MasterCard and Visa card. Trader wants to trade in market where they can easily find counterparties and where market is fluid. You will not go to a market in which you think, let's say you are interested in buying something and you have option to going to 10 different markets, and it's equally costly or equally difficult to go to each market. Which market you will go to? Where you think you will find the best match, the best product. So network effect is playing very, very important role. So there is, virtuous circle that network effect create. If you start anywhere, let us say buyer joins the platform, which encourages sellers to participate, which encourages more buyers to join, which brings more sellers on board, and which leads to buyer join the platform. So it is a virtuous circle that platform creates, and that is one of the reasons that platforms are becoming very, very popular, or they have already become very popular. As we have already discussed, the platform has more than one side. So when we talk about network effect, we have to be careful that is it the network effect is getting created on the same side or a different side, and it would have different sort of impact. So we say direct or same side network externality, that increasing the number of users on one side of the network makes it either more or less valuable for the user on the same side. Okay, so this is direct or same side. So for example, here is a platform and here is, let us say, one side, here is another side. For simplicity, let us say there are only two sides. And if number is increasing on this side, so network effect that getting created on this side is called direct or same side network effect. Typically, it's mostly positive for end users. More end users create more network effect for them. And it is mostly negative for complementers. What do we mean by complementers? So, of course, on a platform, not each side is symmetric. Like, for example, if we are talking about newspaper, then one side is end user, people who are consuming the content and watching the ad, and let us say ad giver are complementer, or content writers are complementer. But it depends on the side. Sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. We will look into examples and try to figure out in more exact manner. Similarly, there is indirect or cross-side network externality. Increasing the number of users on one side of the network makes it either more or less valuable to users on the other side. So let us say on side A number is going up, and whoever is on side B finds the platform more valuable, then we say it is cross-side network effect, because number is increasing on side A, but side B is getting affected. Okay, it can be positive as well as negative. So it depends. So this is one example that we have. Here is platform, here is complementer, here is end user. So we say this depicts the direct network effect that end users are generating for themselves. So if number of end users are going up, either the benefit to end users is increasing or decreasing. In both cases, it is direct network effect. If it is increasing, it is positive. If it is decreasing, it is negative. Similarly, on the complementer side, you have a direct network effect. Now, this indicates indirect network effect or cross-side network effect. Here complementer is generating a cross-side or indirect network effect for end user, or here end users are generating cross-side or indirect network effect for complementer. So we can look at some example and see which are complementers and which are end users. On magazine, advertisers are complementer, news readers are consumer. VCR producer, content producer, the movie makers are, or movie making houses, big houses are complementers, consumers are end user. PDA, earlier we used to have a palm held device, so on that, or you can say that these days mobile is equivalent to PDA. Application developers are complementers, end users are consumers. And console, for let us say game console manufacturer, game publishers are complementer, consumers are end user. So now it will become more clear to you that the end user, for end user, mostly direct effect is positive and it is mostly negative. So be careful when I say mostly, it's not 100% of the time. There would be examples, and so it's better idea to get into different examples rather than thinking about one in the general rule. So here is, Visa card. There are two sites we are considering. Of course, on Visa card, there are many more sites. If you are into Visa card business, you would understand. But let us take two sites only. One is consumer, one is seller. So we can talk about first direct effect. If there are more consumers to Visa card, what would be the intra-group or direct effect? We can say for A, direct effect is neutral. There is no direct effect. It doesn't matter to me how other people are paying. How about for B? If there are more sellers, the direct effect is negative because they are competitors. On intergroup, cross. So what A is doing for B? It is positive because if there are more consumers, it is better for sellers, and if there are more sellers, it is better for consumers. They would like to carry it. So in both cases, it is positive effect. Now let us say dating site or nightclub. If there are more men, it is better for women, and if there are more women, it is better for men. So both would be positive. Now the cross effect. Sorry, the within group effect. If there are more men, think about it, it can be positive, it can be negative. Most of the time it is negative because there are more competition. But let us say there is a handsome man and his presence, let us say Shahrukh Khan, who is big Indian movie star, comes, perhaps more women would come, and in that case it would be positive. And similarly, you can think from the women side, the cross effect. So it can be minus, it can be plus, but it's not neutral. Similarly for Xbox, if there are more players, you have more players to play with, so it is positive. For game developers, the intra-group effect is within group effect is, we can also call it within group effect is negative because there is more competition. And so if there are more players, it's better for game developer, and if there are more game developers, it's better for players. So it's positive. Now let us come to newspaper. We will again look at intergroup and within group. If there are more readers, how does it matter to me? Perhaps it's neutral. How about if there are more advertiser? It's the case like this one. This has to be negative. And if there are more readers, it is beneficial for advertisers because advertisers basically they want better reach. So more readers is better for them. How about for advertiser? Readers don't want to, they are not interested in ad. So perhaps this is negative. And you see, because that is the reason I was saying mostly, not exactly. Most of the time here intergroup effect is positive, but sometimes it can be negative. So be careful about it. Now we would like to compare the platform business with a traditional business. So before we proceed further, it is good idea to contrast a platform business with traditional business. So one can say that traditional business is like a pipeline. It's a linear business model or pipeline verse. What do I mean by linear business model? Think about the traditional way of renting a car, that there are perhaps taxi services provider, or there is a standalone taxi driver who owns his taxi. I call him, I say that bhaiya, I have to go to station, and he provides me the service. The thing is that he needs to own that taxi. If he is not owning, perhaps someone else is owning and he is getting monthly payment. For simplicity, we can assume that he is owning, and he is providing that service to me, and I am buying. Think of grocery shops. I want to purchase a packet of Maggi. I go to a grocery store. That grocery store had purchased Maggi from perhaps a distributor, and distributor had perhaps purchased it from another big distributor or stockholder. These are the different names that they have. And then ultimately it's Nestle. So each one in the process is selling to the next unit in the chain. And perhaps these units in the middle are not doing any value addition other than bringing that Maggi packet at the proper location. So it's moving in the linear fashion. Okay, and that's why we say it's a linear or pipeline kind of model we have. As opposed to these traditional businesses, conventional businesses, think about Uber. Uber is sitting in the middle. It has some software. It has a platform. On this platform, there are different taxi drivers, and there are service user. We can say that we want to use the service. We are connected. Uber in the middle doesn't have any taxi. What Uber is doing, Uber is connecting users to taxi drivers. That's what Uber is doing. So of course, service is flowing in this direction and money is flowing in this direction. But the key is that Uber has almost no marginal cost. Again, this is quite important. Having zero or no marginal cost is not important for having a platform, but it makes having the platform business easier. The key is here everything is flowing in one direction. Here it's not. Here this service user, anyone with a car, can also become a service provider. But the key thing is, let us say I call Uber that I want to go to station. Uber doesn't have any taxi. It relays this information to different taxiwalas in that localities. Taxiwala accepts that assignment, takes me to a station. How does Uber finds the taxiwala? Perhaps Google Map or some map, either it owns or it rents a map business, which again, when I reach a station, how do I pay? These days they are insisting on digital payment. Again, payment flows. So all these, in a way, once you have a system in the place, Uber is not incurring any cost, and Uber is providing this platform service. So it is very different than traditional business where things are flowing in one direction. It is linear. Here it's designed in a very, very different way. In fact, I have Uber business plan on a napkin that was given by David Sachs. He was a veteran of PayPal and he had started many platform business. This is by David Sachs, but here that's just in the fair way. So we can say that, let us start from here, that if there are more drivers, then what would happen? They would cover more geographical area. If they cover more geographical area, more drivers, there would be faster pickups. And if there is a faster pickup, there will be more demand of Uber services. And more demand will lead to more drivers. And of course, more geographical coverage will also have less driver downtime. And that will decrease the price of taxi service. And that will lead to more demand. So you see, virtuous circle that I was talking about, that's what Uber's business is. Okay, but before we end for today, I want to talk further about two issues: why platforms have become popular, and then little bit more on what is the difference between a traditional business and platform business. In traditional business, when we say that things are in a pipeline way flowing in one direction, what is happening? The price is in the middle that is coordinating the effect. So we can draw something like this. On one side, there is a demand that is a downward sloping. On the other side, there is a supply which is upward sloping, and you bring them, in decentralized manner. You are not bringing them in market. They automatically come together and price and quantity gets decided. The price is coordinating. When we are talking about demand side, we don't have to worry about supply side. There, my utility doesn't depend on the other side. My utility depends on the consumption of that item. If I'm talking about demand for mango, then it doesn't matter who the supplier is, how many suppliers are there. My consumption has to be of that mango, and my utility, my satisfaction comes from that mango. And similarly on the supply side doesn't have to worry about who consumers are. But when we talk about platform business, this two cannot be separated. My demand changes. If on a platform there is one side is buyer and other side is seller, so my buyer's demand depends on the number of seller and the kind of seller there are. Similarly, for seller, it depends who buyers are and how many buyers are on the other side. So these two cannot be untangled. These two cannot be separated. So that's very, very important. So on platform, we are always talking about direct as well as indirect network effect. And this indirect network effect is very, very important. That's linking the both sides. I go to a platform because I hope there are many more people on the other side. So that's why it's quite important. That's the way it is different. I wanted to emphasize that. Another thing that we should pay attention, why platforms have become popular. As I already said, that it's not like platform are a new thing. They have existed. Newspapers are platform. They have existed for 250, 300 years. I may be a bit off, but that's, the ballpark, one can say. But why suddenly everyone is talking about platform? What is so different? So we can say digital revolution has played very, very important role. How? Let us see. In traditional business, whenever a buyer and a seller, they come together, they generate a surplus. And that surplus gets divided between buyer and seller. Price is such that buyer is interested in buying, seller is interested in selling. So it leads to surplus. But many times it so happens, because of inefficiency in the market, buyers and sellers are not able to come together. Of course, earlier also some people tried to make market and they were successful. So someone, if there is an intermediary who is able to bring these buyers and sellers together, where buyer and sellers are not able to come together on their own, that intermediary is generating a surplus. But key is that surplus, think about it theoretically, that buyer and seller can meet on their own. So there has to be some inefficiency in the system, in the market, in the society, so that these buyers and sellers are not able to come together. These inefficiency, we can call them friction. So there has to be a large friction, otherwise intermediary would not be, even if, let's say, there is an inefficiency between buyer and seller and they are not, if there is an inefficiency so that buyer and seller are not able to meet, not able to match, and the value, if by their coming together the value generated is very, very little, then intermediary will have no incentive. Intermediary is there to make a profit. Intermediary wants something in return. So if the difference between the gain from transaction is very, very low, the gain to platform is going to be very, very low. So the idea is that you need to have a large friction that a platform must be solving. Then only it's going to be beneficial for the platform. So one requirement is large friction. Why I talked about digital revolution and large friction? Because these frictions have existed for very, very long time and still people were not able to solve. Now what has happened with digital revolution? Now the cost of solving this problem has come down considerably. Now, Uber has a headquarters in San Francisco. Perhaps they have a server there. I don't know where their server are. So when you are using Uber's app, it's getting connected to their central server, maybe outside India, we don't know. And that driver is also connecting. Now, the cost of connection has come down because internet is very, very cheap. It doesn't cost anything to connect. The cost of transaction has come down. Now there is UPI, there is a Google Pay, there is a Phone Pay. Even in the foreign country, the credit cards are the internet connected system. So the payment can flow very, very easily. Otherwise, it's very difficult to make sure the driver gets the money. If driver thinks that he will not get paid, he has no incentive to join the platform. If consumer thinks that he will get cheated in the middle, he has no incentive to join. So Uber is not only able to match, not only able to process the financial transaction, Uber is also able to ensure the safety of passenger and is able to assure that driver will be able to make some sort of money. So many different things are playing. In this course, we are going to untangle some of these different layers. We are going to talk about the architecture of the platform. We are going to talk about the regulatory nature of platform. We will also talk about how platform competes with one another. We will also talk about the situation in which a platform can develop as a monopoly. So we are going to focus on all these topics. This is just a beginning. Thank you.